Hey, did you guys mean to start recording?
Yeah, hello, good afternoon. Can you all see me right now?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Okay, you can see me great. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Raphael Leung, and I work at Calgary Public Library as the school support librarian, which we will be talking about briefly today. I am joined by my colleague, Kate Schutz. Kate, hi.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Kate. I'm a service design lead at Calgary Public Library. And I've been with the library for about 5 years, and my role is fairly new. We have a service design team at Calgary Public Library, which is made up of about 8 designers. We each have a different focus area. Mine is school-age children, kids ages 5 to 12, educators, and our relationships with the school boards. And what our team does is we look to push practice at the library and address opportunities and challenges that the entire system is facing. So I'm very happy to share a little bit about what I do and how that intersects with Raphael's role.
Yeah, so I generally work with Kate on any of the school projects, initiatives she's designing, and provide that service delivery perspective and just let her know what I'm hearing from educators as we plan. So, Kate, I feel like this school support librarian position we were just figuring out not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
This position continues to evolve, but the good news is, while I haven't been in this job all that long, I feel like a lot has happened with schools in just the way we have responded to educator and student needs during the thick of the pandemic and now. And we thought we just sort of share with you what we've been doing with schools, how we increased our reach to the school audience as well. So let me
Yeah,
just share with you my slide deck again. Right.
that's great.
And I did press record. Okay. So thank you to our partners for this Library 2.0 mini conference, SJSU School of Information and the Urban Library Council for giving us this opportunity. Kate, let's just start this off. If you can just explain to us Calgary Public Library's school age strategy.
Yeah, that's great. So in 2019, we published a strategy for school-age children. This was the first time, to my knowledge, Calgary Public Library had a strategy dedicated specifically to elementary school-age students. Prior to 2019, we launched our early literacy strategy for children 0 to 5. And since this strategy has come out, we also have now launched our teen strategy. So we have this sort of trifecta of guiding documents that lead our work with kids from birth to adulthood, which is amazing. And this document, the school age strategy, really informs the way we approach our work with school age kids and guides us in our thinking and is a little bit of a pedagogical document for Calgary Public Library. I will say that we worked on it with our school board partners, as well as many other education organizations in analogous contexts. It's very rooted in research and it's tied to our strategic plan. So I will be reviewing it and updating it beginning next year for the next 4 years. But something that came out of this strategy that was new for the Calgary Public Library was that we identified 2 target audiences, and neither of them are kids. Caregivers, the adults that are in the lives of the children, whether that be their parents or their aunties and uncles or grandparents, was one audience, and the other was educators. We really felt that if kids were not able to come to the library with their caregiver, that they might come with their teacher or their after-school provider or Boys and Girls Club, etc. So this presentation today is going to really look at how we've been able to build and engage that educator audience from scratch. Go ahead.
Kate, you were also the person that actually proposed my position. And I think you can speak a little bit more why this was proposed 2 years ago.
Yeah, great. So once we identified educators as a target audience, then we realized right away we needed a systems approach to build the relationships between community schools and their community libraries. Calgary Public Library is a fairly large urban library. I think it's the second largest in Canada. We have 21 locations spread out across our city of over 2 million people. And prior to my position, prior to the strategy, community libraries needed to build their own relationships with their local school. The local school needed to reach out to the local librarian to kind of make those connections and to contact the library that way. I was really looking for a way that we could have a more cohesive, system-wide approach. And it sounds strange, but the COVID-19 pandemic and school and library closures provided that opportunity for us. We were able to stop what we were doing and to really reframe and think about what we needed to do. We knew that in schools, there had been a lot of cuts to school librarians and to their resources within schools. And there was certainly a lot of uncertainty in our schools. Schools went online here in Calgary for quite some time. We weren't able to visit the schools anymore. The schools weren't able to come to us. There was a lot of change, and we did not know what educators and what our school board partners were going to need. And so it occurred to me that maybe we could create this role of the school support librarian that would make themselves available to educators. And we could hear from educators. So instead of supposing what they might need, and instead of trying out a few things and just, you know, a shot in the dark, we decided, let's make ourselves available and learn from teachers in our community, learn from school board administrators about what they need and how we could help them. And so as a result, we created this position. And at first it was called the Librarian on Call and is now the School Support Librarian. And we'll share a little bit about that name change too.
Yeah, okay. So I work with schools at the start of this position as they operated in school, blended at-home learning. And these scenarios, the schools were moving through sort of really just helped us to learn more about not just what they needed during this really unusual year, but what they needed and wanted in general from Calgary Public Library, and just allowed me to collaborate at all levels with schools and at the same time establish a new model for virtual classroom visits for our library.
That's right.
Yeah, so let me show, Kate, I'm gonna share with you a graph. This isn't an accurate graph by any stretch of your imagination, nor is it to scale, but it's kind of what I envision our reach to students from the start of the pandemic until now. As you can expect, outreach, school programming really took a dive. In the beginning, we weren't doing much outreach since January 2020, but since then, our reach to students has expanded, I have to say. Here's some actual numbers for you though. Through the School Support Librarian Service, we reach students in new virtual classroom visits, virtual tours, school events. We were just reaching students in classrooms in just new barrier-free ways. But to summarize some of these numbers, like we were reaching over 35,000 students, 943 teachers, 300 schools through the School Support Librarian Service via events, via Indigenous educational opportunities, consultation with teachers, virtual visits. But yeah, we definitely expanded in the last 2 years, I have to say.
Right.
But let's back it up a little. I'm going to give you a little bit of context of how my role and the service was initially promoted. So in late 2020, about 2 months into the position, a webpage was created with the help of marketing and our IT department to just promote the service more to educators. So initially, Kate said we were called the Librarian on Call. So catchy name, who are you going to call? The Librarian on Call. And the service worked, I would say, a little too well initially. I was inundated by parents, homeschoolers, ESL schools, various agencies with adult learners that thought the service was for them. And obviously, they were educators. It was just out of the scope of what I was doing and had time for. So we did change the name shortly after to the School Support Librarian. And because there was also confusion with our library hotline service as well. So our marketing team changed the messaging on our website in future social media promotions, just explicitly stating that this service was for teachers looking for support. So this webpage, this form was just a really convenient way for school staff to reach me directly. So teachers can go to this web form, as you can see here, and they can book a Teams meeting with me directly, which is very terrifying, as you can imagine. So my Outlook calendar is out to the open and you can just make a booking on there, but it works. I had about 74 consultation appointments to date. Consultation hours are set by me, and a meeting with a teacher would last about 20 minutes. And these consultations was such an incredible opportunity to understand what educators were seeking, what they needed from the library. So like you say, we didn't necessarily offer a menu of services to teachers. I was there to listen, to see what teachers needed, and often what they needed fit closely to what we could provide. But on occasion, I'm working extensively with the teacher, with that teacher's team, to see what we can bring into the classrooms and just fulfill some of those learning objectives. So I would have really interesting requests, like they are working on an autobiographical assignment about their COVID experience. They're looking for more resources on writing, on zine creation, on self-publishing, or some really, really specific requests. So I would have requests about, I am linking my science, social studies, math, literacy units to the study of Acadian communities of East Canada. And they want to know about like the Metatown communities and about fishing and boating. So obviously, questions like that, I can't answer, I can't speak to, but we do have specialists in and outside the system. We have a historian in residence that I can point them to. And that was just part of what I was doing.
I think it was an interesting way, Raphael, to build awareness about Calgary Public Library's services with teachers. Many of them had no idea all of the different resources we had, all the different specialists we have on our team. And so you were able to sort of take their question and their need and connect it to a specialist within our system, which was amazing.
That's exactly right, Kate. Like a lot of teachers actually did not have any idea that we were offering e-resource presentations, library tours, just book talk presentations. So this chart here includes some of the classroom visits that I coordinated. And just like the shift to online learning and the periodic closures of public libraries, as you can imagine, created a consistent demand from teachers for digital resource presentations. So teachers wanted their students to know how to access our resources from home. And even if they were, like, regardless if they're learning from home or in person, they wanted them to be able to access these resources. But I also soon realized teachers didn't want to just access these resources. They wanted quality book recommendations. So online book talks became super popular as well. And on numerous occasions, we were bringing in specialists. So we had artists in residence, musician in residence, and specialists inside and outside the system coming to classrooms as well. So just working with schools, working with these specialists, I was just helping to align some of their learning objectives and see what we can offer to them. And I guess one of the best things, Kate, I have to say, is while we were talking to teachers and finding specialists, I discovered that so many of these specialists exist within the system. Within our colleagues, there's so much talent and expertise. So we had colleagues that could do French story times, tours of our central library on Indigenous placemaking, Indigenous story times, talk about the importance of land acknowledgements. And like even one of our librarians who is an accomplished author was doing like an ekphrastic poetry session with teens. So just so many colleagues, just to like, I now know that I can draw on the specialties within our system.
Yeah, I love that picture there of Leung with the selfie stick doing a very early virtual tour of our central library for a class.
That was like our proto virtual tour, right? Yeah, but Kate, as you know, it didn't take long for us to sort of hit a wall in meeting the demand for programming and other specialized events. So it did lead us to try other online events in providing library service and programs that would better utilize our time and just maximize the number of schools that could participate. So the first opportunity came with professional development sessions with educators for Calgary Board of Education and Calgary Catholic School Districts. So teachers, learning commons assistants, librarians from over 100 schools were in attendance for these sessions. We were also doing an Indigenous story time at the time. And this was sort of our first school age, like this type of scale of a live event. And we had 60 classes in attendance for the first one. So the success of this type of school system-wide events was kind of unexpected and did lead us to other events. So we did have, for instance, we did have the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra do like a dual read musical story time with one of our colleagues. We had Isabel Ackroyd, our illustrator in resident do a comic book drawing session. We had like rodeo stars as well. And we had like book readings from well-known authors in Calgary too. So this was just an amazing opportunity to try various special events out. And so teachers could sign up for these events via Eventbrite. So unlike our other Calgary Public Library events, we don't list these publicly on Eventbrite. These are private events that we primarily promoted directly to the school board. So Kate and I typically meet with the school boards around every 2 months or so, I would say. And because we were primarily focused on the school and student audience, these events we promoted directly to teachers, to schools, to the ever-growing contact list that I was growing with each successive event, and just word of mouth. So teachers were telling like other teachers of these events. We were starting to have just schools and teachers outside of the Calgary School District, like Edmonton, Rocky View, Airdrie sign up. And sessions would range between 50 to 500 classes in attendance. So as you can see here, you can sort of see the people that are registering. These are teachers that are actually registering their classes. So if you can imagine, 98 would be about 98 classes that are registered for this event. And somewhere upward run, we had about 580 registered for the event. And it was just, I guess, really eye-opening to see how this online event format provide like a convenience and accessibility for all those involved and just open up a new way to reach our school audience.
And teachers really loved it, Raphael, because they didn't have to book a school bus to come to us. And we could reach so many more classes virtually than we ever could in person. So some of the numbers that we were seeing translated to, thousands of kids. And there's no space in any of our libraries that could hold the amount of children that we were able to reach through these virtual events. So really beneficial all around.
Yeah, it was really amazing. And the platform I should mention before we go any further is we use Microsoft Teams Live for all our school events. It wasn't ideal, but it was due to platform restrictions by most of Calgary school boards and just the terms of use guidelines that we had to follow with our library, which sort of prevented us from using platforms like Zoom. So unlike a regular Microsoft Teams meeting, this was sort of like a one-way stream into classrooms and students. So initially, we did try Microsoft Teams webinar, but there was glitches in terms of students in classrooms just randomly appearing on screen when we started a session. And as you can imagine, there would be privacy issues around that. But with Microsoft Teams Live, audio and video is just automatically off for all participants when they enter. There is a Q&A function, but we chose a different platform to take questions and engage students. But all these school events, I should emphasize, wasn't simply just creating a Zoom meeting or sharing a screen. It required like a really high level coordination between staff, events, video production, and marketing just to make it look professional. You see Kate here, there's people in their background working on various things, but at a minimum, we were staffing these events with 4 people. But at some of our larger one, at our last one, we had as much as 8 staff members to make sure the tech went okay, the video quality, Q&A, hosting. We were having trouble with the internet connection and just to fill the various production roles that was needed.
Yeah, and I would say too, our first events, our early events at the beginning of the pandemic were very scrappy. And we had, authors doing readings from their living room, and we were just each in our own homes. And as the pandemic went on, Calgary Public Library invested in a production studio and an entire production team. And so the images you see here are from our production studio, where we have lighting and cameras, and we have AV specialists on staff now because of the huge success of these virtual events and others. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely upgraded throughout the pandemic.
Yeah, we sure did.
So the culmination and sort of the real test of all these live events was when we put together this amazing multi-day virtual convention called LitCon for students. Actually, the students named this. It was based on their feedback. And we had this convention from May 5th to 7th. And we worked with our school board partners and our local community partners like WordFest, CBC News, University of Calgary, Alexander Writers Society to create this literary arts festival that gave students a chance to learn from library staff, from professional writers, from artists, and just drawing on the experience the connections and the skills from people within our system and our partners, we pulled off a series of 10 virtual school events during that time and 20 online workshops, and reaching over 16,000 students and 600 classrooms. And I would have to say, like, teachers really loved this idea of this con. We had teachers just planning like multi-day participation and just really wanting to replicate that con vibe for their students.
Yeah, and because Calgary Public Library has such close relationships with both our school board partners, we're able to develop some of these things in concert with them. And so they were able to share their ideas about what they thought would work. And it really was a true collaboration with our school board partners as well.
And one of our most major promotions every year is our Ultimate Summer Challenge. So most public library, as you might know, has a summer reading program. Calgary Public Library has the Ultimate Summer Challenge. Each May to June, during a regular post-pandemic year, like the library visits as many kindergarten to grade 6 as possible. So we're delivering fun, informative presentations to students to get them excited about reading, learning, meeting experts in creating a Calgary Public Library. So last year, we did make the jump to virtual due to those programming restrictions. And we found our virtual live events, once again, were just very popular and just actually much easier to staff than providing individual virtual sessions even. So this year we did it again. We had the live events. We had 7 of them. We had 330 classes and 7,000 students join. And as you can see here, our theme this year was superheroes. And yeah, I think, Kate, this format works so well. I feel like for Ultimate Summer Challenge, we'll probably bring it back again next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we can reach so many classes with a virtual event like this. We had different ones for different grades, and teachers could book for the time slot that worked best for them. Another thing I'd love to point out in this slide, I think it's so indicative of the opportunity that's available in virtual school programming. So you can see, for example, Raphael's dressed as Spider-Man, and we've got our colleague Stephanie as Batgirl. So we can have a lot of fun with costumes and lighting and backdrops. We had our marketing team create virtual backgrounds for everybody to use during the summer. And when we work with authors, we tend to get their permission to scan the pages of their books. So when they're reading, we can show a full page spread for the kids, and they can read along and they can see the illustrations, just like you can see on the right there with the Spider-Man image. So I think there's a lot of opportunities available within the software itself that really lends itself well to this kind of high engaging, high interest programming for kids.
Absolutely. Kate, I just want us to mention probably our most successful virtual school event to date, Nappy's World. Kate, I know you developed this series with Kelly. Can you speak a little bit more about it?
Sure. So in the lower left there is my colleague, Kelly Morningbull. She's our Indigenous Services lead on the same team as I am. And I'm sure it's the same in cities, all across North America and worldwide, but there's a large interest in Indigenous education here in Calgary. And teachers are really looking for authentic experiences for their students to meet with Indigenous elders, knowledge keepers, artists, authors, illustrators. And so with many, many requests coming into Raphael through his virtual office hours for Indigenous education, we decided to develop a series called Nappy's World. Nappy is a trickster character in Blackfoot culture here in Mohkinstsis, Treaty 7 land. And Nappy shares creation stories and lessons through all his misadventures. And so we have a Nappy's World session once every 2 months or so, targeting elementary school kids, grades K through 6. And we feature different Indigenous knowledge keepers and experts. So we've worked with a local theater group called Making Treaty 7 Cultural Society. That's them there in the gopher costumes. We also work with our staff who have incredible puppetry skills, and we bring in authors such as Tim Fox in the top left. So Nappy's World has been a tremendous success, and a lot of incredible things have come from it through the feedback we've received from educators.
Yeah, Kate, like just a lot of requests from teachers, as you said. I was receiving were for elder visits or someone from our Indigenous Service Department to do a class visit or attend a school staff meeting. And even teachers from outside Calgary School District were asking me about placemaking tours and virtual time with elders. And as you know, it was just impossible to meet that demand individually. And I guess Nappy World was just like an amazing opportunity to alleviate some of that demand.
Yes.
And what's so amazing about all these school events and Nappy's World is that there is a high level of participation from students. Despite this seemingly one-way presentation style, we are finding other ways to interact with classrooms, provide opportunities for them to engage the content. Padlet here, as shown here, is an online bulletin board that allows people to post. And I'm always finding new ways to use it, but it's just been a great way to get that Q&A in our sessions, but also to capture comments, teacher feedback. They can submit poetry, reaction memes, and just create anything during and after the live sessions. And
we use Padlet also for Q&A at the end of every session. So we invite classes to submit their questions, and then Raphael and I moderate those questions with the presenter. So there is a certain level of interactivity, and Padlet has been a great way for us to get ideas from educators about what they'd like to see in future virtual sessions, and also social media. So the image on the right of the plasticine sculptures came to us by email through a teacher, and she also posted it on social media. We reached out and we said, can you share your lesson plan with us? She did, and now we're receiving lesson plan ideas from educators that we are adding to an educator's guide for Nappy's World that we can now share out with teachers across the city. So there's this really beautiful feedback loop that's starting to happen because of the school support librarian role.
That's right. Yeah, and I guess going forward, Kate, like just creating concise, relevant, and active content just that allows for a large audience to engage is going to be important in keeping these live events kind of meaningful, right, in the future, because we're hoping to do more.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be doing more, and teachers have a real appetite for virtual programming because there are so many restrictions to school busing and funding to go off-site. They love it when we beam into their classroom, and so Calgary Public Library, I think, will always now do at least a hybrid of virtual events for schools, as well as in-person tours, book deposit collections, and visiting schools too. Next slide, I guess. We go. So that brings us to our second last slide here at the end of the presentation. We wanted to share our new webpage, calgarylibrary.ca/students. This is a full circle from the strategy for school-aged children that launched in 2019. This webpage is a place, you can see there's a page just for educators and teachers, a brand new audience for Calgary Public Library that we've grown so much through the school support librarian role that we needed to create a web page just for them. And so teachers can go on here, they can book our programs, they can book virtual office hours with Raphael, they can find out about Nappy's World, they can download a printable lesson plan, they can apply to get their class library cards. There's so many resources here. We're able to use this webpage as a continuation of our communication with teachers, and we can add content to it that they provide to us through their ideas. So I invite everybody to check it out. And here we are.
We're at the end. We only have 1 or 2 minutes, it looks like. Let us know if you have any questions, or you can always send us an email. We're happy to chat about all schooling, school related. We are sort of we're sort of a mini community of practice ourselves.
That's right.
Basically.
That's right. Please do reach out by email. And I put my Twitter and Instagram handles there. I use Twitter a lot for the library, share a lot about our programming, and have a really interesting dialogue with educators and the public about learning at the library.
All right.
See any questions coming in, but I think that's a good way to leave it.
It is. It looks like we just hit the 3 o'clock mark. Thank you for the opportunity to talk and let you know what we're doing. And yeah.
Great. Have a great conference. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.